Hello. So the past couple weeks, you may have seen me posting about these goobers on various social media, including this channel. I posted some music for them a few weeks ago at this point, and you may be wondering, what the heck is up with these guys? Who are they? What's going on with them? Or maybe you're not wondering that, and you don't care at all. And if that's the case, that's fine. This is the second channel where I can just post whatever I want and not really care who actually watches it. So, I'm just gonna put this video out either way. Yeah, just gonna explain what these goobers are. And I've made a little PowerPoint presentation. It's technically Google Slides, but everyone calls it PowerPoint anyway. I've made a PowerPoint talking about these guys, and I'm just going to talk about these guys. I'm going to try to keep this brief because, frankly, I'm hungry, and I want lunch. So I'm going to hopefully not ramble too much, but we'll see. Anyways, let's get on with the presentation. What the heck is Lottle? It's her. The one on the left, not the right. That's Fred. We'll talk about him, though, in a bit. So, what is Lottle? Well, first of all, she's an axolotl, little salamander guys that everyone loves. Who doesn't love them? She's also my OC, original character. I'm guessing people know what an OC is, though honestly, maybe not, because to be honest, I feel like I see people talk about OCs on every platform except YouTube. I don't see much OC talk on YouTube, which is kind of weird. So, but anyways, she's my OC, okay? She's gonna be the protagonist of something. Now, what that something is some kind of story or a series or something. Something is what it is. That something is also called Lottle. I'm doing the thing where, like, you know, the franchise or whatever is the same title, or it's the same. The title of the franchise is the same as the protagonist's name. That's what I'm doing, tentatively at least. Though I have a feeling it'll probably just stick. Either way, it's Lottle. When I'm saying Lottle, I am either referring to the character or just the overall thing that it will end up being, which I don't know what it'll be yet, but we'll get to that. So before we go into any more detail about, you know, I guess the history of these characters and where they came from, I should just introduce you to them straight up, what I want you to know of these characters right now. So I have these little character bios that I've made, and some of you probably may have seen these before if you're on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. But I'm just going to go through them really quickly here. We have Lottle, she, her, the axolotl reporter. So far, all of these characters have a bit of a title to them, I guess. It's not really important, it's just something I did because I thought it was cool. But anyways, Lottle is the axolotl reporter. She is the amphibious anti-heroine. She is an anti-hero. She's not completely good. She has a bit of a morally questionable personality sometimes. She is a blindly optimistic oddball. She kind of just jumps into things with a very bizarre way of thinking through problems. She is chaotically charismatic. I thought these little, like, alliterative descriptions of them were just kind of cute and quirky, so I have that for the rest of them as well. But chaotically charismatic, she is a bit of an unpredictable little monster, little monster of a character. You never know what she's gonna do, but she's got a bit of a charisma to her that you kind of just can't help but feel charmed by her in a sense. And last but not least, she is a dinosaur chicken nugget enthusiast. She loves her dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets. Why? She just does. Anyways, the actual little bio here kind of just kind of describes all the other personality traits in a more I don't know, properly worded sentence. Lottle is a reporter who tends to cause further problems in her pursuit for justice, though given her bizarre and chaotic personality, she doesn't really care. She's always looking for the latest scoop and the nearest dinosaur-shaped chicken nugget. So that's Lottle. She's very weird and goofy and silly, and I love her to bits. But you can't have a Lottle without a Fred. Fred is, he's he, him, Cameraman of Mystery. Originally his title was just Camera of Mystery, but I thought Cameraman of Mystery was more clever because it adds the man, which kind of gives it a semi-bit of alliteration with man and mystery. Also, Cameraman is funny to me because it's not the traditional cameraman that you're thinking of, like a man who's operating a camera. Instead, he's literally a man that is a camera. I thought it was funny. He is the small, sarcastic sidekick, that kind of character. He's playfully pretentious. By that, I mean that he's like, he kind of acts full of himself, but he's not really. Like, he's just kind of messing with people. Speaking of messing with people, he is mischievous and mysterious. He likes to pull some pranks, and he's got a bit of a mysterious past. But despite that, he's just kind of a happy-go-lucky little guy, He's just a little guy. He's just a little guy. And it's also his birthday. It's not his birthday. But Fred's little bio here. Fred is a magic sentient camera of unknown origin that Lottle mysteriously found one day. He may seem like a pessimist with a dry sense of humor, but he's really just here for a good time, especially if it's getting into trouble with his best axolotl buddy. By the way, Fred's name is just Fred, but spelled with a PH. The PH comes from photo. I just kind of did the first F name I could think of and just swapped it out with a PH. Because of the word photograph or whatever, and I was like, that's so stupid, like, I'm gonna change his name at some point, but I just never did, and Fred just stuck. Like, I mean, look at him, that's a Fred, he can't be named anything else, that's just a Fred. Next, I think, we've got the first ever drawings of Lottle and Fred. I drew these guys in November 2021. That was around the time that I was playing Yooka-Laylee, which is a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, and I kind of have a lot to say about that game. Not all of it's very positive, but the important thing about that is that it kind of inspired me to want to draw my own kind of Scrimblow-Bimblow 3D platformer protagonist-looking characters. These were the first iterations of that. I don't know exactly how I came to this idea. I probably just wanted to do an animal, of course, and I just kind of landed on an axolotl because I love axolotls. I just slapped a fedora and a necktie on her because, you know me, I love slapping neckties onto things and calling it an OC. And I was like, well, she kind of looks like a reporter, so give her a camera. And it's like, what if the camera was alive? Boom, there's a whole new character. And it's kind of funny because, like, I went into this specifically with the intention of not making a duo, because, like, part of the reason for this is because I felt that Yooka and Laylee as characters were a bit uninspired compared to Banjo and Kazooie that inspired them. I felt like they were kind of just mimicking them and not really trying to do anything new. So I went into this specifically being like, I'm not going to make a duo. Like, I'm above that. I've got to do something more original. And then I just made the camera sentient, and I was like, well, shit, I accidentally made a duo. God damn it, but I don't care. They're cute together, and I really like them. Also, they do look a bit different here, as you can see. Mainly Fred. Fred's color scheme is a bit different. He's more blue instead of purple. Lottle's little belly spot is a darker color instead of a lighter color. But otherwise, they haven't really changed a whole lot design-wise since I first created them. And because I obviously started with the Yooka-Laylee inspiration, you can kind of tell, and also with, some of the text that's on this, is that they were definitely originally designed as a 3D platformer, mascot with all these quirky little game-related abilities that they had on this picture. And I honestly kind of just drew these guys as a bit of a drawing warm-up of that day. I did not really intend to do anything with them. Obviously, I had no intention of actually making a 3D platformer with them because, God, I do not know how to do that, and I would not even know where to start with that. It was literally just a drawing exercise one day. But I ended up really liking these guys, so I kind of kept them around, and as I continued to kind of, flesh them out a bit more, I kind of shifted away from the original vision of them being 3D platformer characters. But that's what they started as, and that's kind of, where the kind of overall charm of the design comes from. They kind of got that 90s platformer look to them. Next we have drawings from summer 2022, last year. I made those guys in like November 2021. And I still kind of thought about them a little bit. I doodled them for a little bit after that, I think. But ultimately, I just kind of focused on other stuff after that point until last summer when I started to draw them again because they were on my brain. So I drew them a bit more. I kind of tried to refine their designs a bit here. And I still like these drawings, but I think they ended up looking a little too stiff and not as expressive as they could be. So, like, Lottle looks really good there. I still like that drawing of her, but you can definitely tell compared to kind of the more recent picture of her that she kind of is a bit more cartoony, and she just has a bit more potential for expression in that design instead of this one. So yeah, those are 2022 drawings. These are also drawings from last summer as well, just kind of random doodles that I've got here. These are more recent doodles from like a couple months ago, I would say. I kind of got the urge to actually once again refine their designs a bit, and here we kind of get to the more cartoony, even they've obviously they were always cartoony, but just a bit more expressive, I feel. This was kind of in preparation to actually share them with people, which I started to do at the end of June. So here is a bit, I think this was like one of the first times in a while, probably since the original drawings I did of them, that I drew them digitally, kind of trying to do that. And, you know, they still look a bit different here, especially Lottle in that colored picture of her. But it's still cute, and I really do like the doodles here as well. I think these do represent what I envision the characters to be. Though I think this is probably the best doodle sheet of them. I really like a lot of these doodles, and a lot of these doodles just come from doodles that I've done on paper of them. But I still think they're really good. I really love these doodles of the characters. They're great. Here we have just kind of a reference sheet. And honestly, I just kind of made these for Art Fight, but that's what this is. I don't really feel the need to point out anything too crazy on this, other than at the bottom there, I have Lottle gain a finger to point if she needs to, and you know, all sorts of cartoon characters with that sort of style of hand kind of cheat when it comes to if they need to point at something. But I think it makes perfect sense for Lottle, because she is an axolotl, and if you don't know, axolotls can regenerate limbs. So in Lottle's context, it makes sense, even though it doesn't need to, because she's still a cartoony character, and nothing really makes sense in her world. And then we have the reference sheet for Fred. Again, I don't really feel the need to point out too much here. He's got his printer on his backside, which is... it's just a printer, don't worry about it. He also can have hands, either made out of electricity or with his eyeball. He can just kind of shape-shift his eyeball into whatever he wants, which allows for some funny gags. And he can make a hand out of that. And it's kind of creepy and unsettling, but it's also funny, which I think kind of describes Fred pretty well. And now it's time to talk about this guy, currently the final character that I have shown off in Lottle's universe, the Lottleverse, I guess, as I'm semi-calling it in my brain. This is Tweed. Tweed is the finder of the foul truth. He is a detestable detective. No one likes him. He is conceited yet cowardly. By that I mean he talks a big game for himself. He thinks very highly of himself, but when it comes to actually being faced with a tough situation, he's a bit of a wimp. He's a bad-mouthing beak boy and an awfully arrogant avian. Those two things kind of just mean the same thing. He's a rude bird. He's kind of based on that trope of just having bird characters be absolute assholes, and I love that character archetype. If you show me a bird that's a jerk, I'm probably just going to immediately fall in love with them. So that's where Tweed kind of comes from. In his bio, Tweed Twitely, that's his last name, by the way, is Twitely. Tweed Twitely is a self-proclaimed genius detective. He puts on a tough guy act to suppress how lonely and cowardly he really is, but he is still extremely rude, usually calling people nitwits. Tweed is Lottle's rival and is often outsmarted by her. And he does not really like that. When it comes to Tweed's actual origins, Tweed is technically one of my oldest characters, if you want to be technical about it. He was originally a Club Penguin OC. It was around the time when the popcorn explosion happened, in 2010, when the Penguin Secret Agency was destroyed and the Elite Penguin Force took over. Because before that, PSA was the main agency and EPF was kind of the more second hidden agency. And after the EPF took over, my child brain was like, well, obviously there's got to be some kind of second agency now that the EPF is the main one. And I wanted to have it be less instead of being like super high-tech spies, I kind of wanted them to be more classic detective themed. And I didn't like think too much about this idea. I just kind of remember thinking about it one day as a kid, and I had kind of the main character of that group be this guy named Tweed, named after the tweed coat, which is the detective clothing item in Club Penguin. That's how I learned about the word tweed, which if you don't know what tweed is, it's the fabric on that kind of detective clothing. So I didn't really think about that idea too much in regard to Club Penguin, but I just that idea of a detective character named Tweed, I always thought that was a really cool thing, and I think there was like a Pokemon project at some point that I was drawing in middle school that I had like a detective trainer named Tweed, and that never really went anywhere. So this is just something that has just kind of always stuck with me, is that if I ever had a detective character, I wanted his name to be Tweed. So when it came around to kind of fleshing out what Lottle's world would be, I was like, well, Lottle's a reporter. She will report on incidents. Who else would show up to these incidents? Probably a detective. So I was like, maybe I can have Tweed be here. And originally I was like, maybe he should be a penguin, because he started as a penguin. So maybe he should be a penguin to kind of come full circle with that. But I kind of quickly threw away that idea, because at this point, this was like last year, I had kind of, already done a bunch of mystery-solving penguins, and I didn't really want a bunch of comparisons to that constantly. So I didn't want him to be a penguin anymore, but I still like the idea of him being some kind of a bird. So I looked at a bunch of bird species, and I found this bird called a twite, and I thought it was the perfect bird because, one, it's got like these kind of brownish feathers, which kind of reminds me of typical detective wear. And also the name starts with TW, just like Tweed. It was the perfect fit. Also, that's where his last name, Twitely, comes from, the fact that he is a twite. So these are the early drawings of Tweed, where he had a much, much different design. He was much more taller than he is now. Also, I guess he had the name Twiteman at one point. I don't really remember that, but somewhere along the way I changed it to Twitely. So that's Tweed's very, very early design. Here we had kind of his second design that I kind of kept for a bit. I like this one a lot. I still think it's a good design, but it ultimately just wasn't really what I was looking for. He was still kind of tall in this point. I think he kind of just gets gradually shorter as we move along. Also, he had sunglasses instead of aviator goggles. I guess to kind of make him look cool, even though he's not cool. But I do like the aviator goggles more. And this, I made this, by the way, this was like last summer. And this was earlier this year. I kind of went back to the drawing board when it came to Tweed's design. Because before Tweed, I kind of imagined him as like a helper to Lottle, but just a helper that doesn't really like her. But I felt it made more sense to have Tweed be more of a rival to her instead. Rather than kind of someone just who helps her along the way. So because of that, I kind of made it. I thought it made a bit more sense to have him be closer in stature to Lottle rather than being a bit taller than her. So I just kind of squished him down into this design, and I really, really like this design. Like, as soon as I did it, I was like, that's the Tweed I've been looking for. It's perfect. I love this design so much. I kind of did a bit more doodles after that, kind of refining his design, made his beak a bit more pointy. Really, really like these doodles. I think these give you such a great idea of what this character is all about. He's just kind of a jerk, but he's also a bit of a pathetic man. As you can see in the bottom right, he's the world's most pathetic man. absolute loser, this guy, but you can't help but love him. And then we have the reference sheet for him as well. Again, not a whole lot to really talk about here. I guess I like the thing at the bottom where it thinks he looks cool while flying, but he doesn't. Like, look how stupid his arms look as they're wobbling about with his short, fat little body. He's a goofy guy. I like him a lot. I also have this meme I made, which I think gives you a very good idea of what the dynamic between these characters are. Tweed not understanding how he's losing, and then Lottle, who's just been eating the pieces when he's not looking. Lottle outsmarts Tweed in very dumb ways, which is kind of upsetting to him because he's like the smart guy, and Lottle's just kind of a goofy, stupid little lady. So, what am I doing with these goobers? Eventually, I would like to give them a full, proper story. And I am, kind of brainstorming that story in the background here. As for what medium that story will be, I have no idea. A comic? A video series? A game? Probably not a game, because that sounds like a lot of work and really hard, but I don't know, maybe. It won't happen for like years, so who knows at that point. I'm still figuring it out right now. Currently the story is a murder mystery, but that may change. I may kind of want to step away from that kind of genre for a bit. But I still think there will be murder stuff involved, and definitely mysteries for sure. I just kind of describe it as furry Ace Attorney, basically. Like Lottle and Tweed are Phoenix and Edgeworth, just without any romantic tension whatsoever. They completely hate each other. Also, Fred is there as a little comic relief sidekick who also has a bit of a mysterious past of his own. So that's currently what the plan is for them in the long run, which is just, I don't really know. But what am I doing with them for now? That is pretty much just, whatever I feel like doing. Artwork, memes, music, whatever I feel like making and sharing with them, I'm going to share it. And when I do, now you'll have a bit more context for what it means. And as I'm kind of posting that kind of smaller stuff for them, I'm going to be also, figuring out the story in the background as I work on other projects. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that like, I don't know. I don't know if anyone actually thinks this way, but I just kind of worry that people will look at these characters as I'm posting them and be like, oh, you're abandoning like Penguin Rampa and stuff in favor of these characters, and that's not what's happening. I may be taking a little bit of a step back from Penguin Rampa at the moment, but ultimately, like, I don't plan on actually releasing anything big for these characters until way, way later. I really want to kind of refine and plan out their story as much as I can before I even think about doing anything big with them. So don't think that I'm like, these are the new guys and I'm pushing the old stuff to the side, because that's not what's happening. I'm gonna work on these guys in the background as I actually work on and put out other big projects like Penguin Rampa and the video essays and stuff on the main channel, and whatever other random stuff I do on this channel. So I just want to say that really quick. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's Lottle, Fred, and Tweed and what they're all about. And yeah, thanks for watching.